to see a life like that cut short, it's just devastating for so many, and especially in our area with her ties to our state here in South Carolina. A lot of people wondering, why did this happen? Why would this happen to someone like Cheslie?
Yeah, that is a question, and it's really hard to answer, but we know that mental illness, things like depression, feeling suicidal, it just does not discriminate. It does not care if you have money or friends or fame or anything. It can affect anyone, anywhere, any reason. And so the why isn't always, there is not always an answer that we can find.
What can you do as an outsider, as a friend, as a family member who maybe doesn't necessarily see a warning sign?
Isolation. They might feel like they're totally alone in whatever's happening. Sometimes they feel like they're even burdening those around them with their problems, and so they're not always eager to share. But we do know that most people who end up taking their life do give some sort of clues beforehand, verbal, behavioral, and sometimes it's more of a puzzle piece where I've heard her say something and maybe my friend has noticed something else. And so those two pieces together paint a clearer picture than just the one piece that we each have. So reaching out, absolutely, checking in, just letting people know that you're there for them. And if maybe they're not comfortable sharing with someone, they know that there are hotlines, professionals, there are people who care.
Social media being so prevalent right now, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, there's so much out there. How big is it to also look at social media for those signs?
Yeah, people share all sorts of things on social media, feeling like, either it's their friends following them, or sometimes it's easier when they're not. But social media is such a big part of life nowadays, and absolutely seeing, kind of trying to read between the lines when you do see posts like that. Some clues are obvious, people saying that they can't do this anymore, but some are more low-key or subtle, just in that, this will be over soon, and that can bring a sense of peace, and if you've been struggling for that long. But I think paying attention to people say on social media and personal conversations, it's what they say, it's how they act, it's everything.
The friends and the family now think, what could I have done? And they maybe
Mm-hmm.
place the blame on themselves. What would you tell, people who are struggling after something like this happens, if they lose a loved one? How should they be coping?
Yeah, losing a loved one to suicide is a very specific kind of grief, a very isolating kind of sadness. And I would just, of course, recommend them also to reach out. There are specific groups, support groups for people who have lost loved ones to suicide. MHAGC sponsors one for Greenville County in the upstate, but they are statewide, to talk with people who have experienced similar losses and who might, genuinely understand how you're feeling, because it does bring a whole host of emotions that other losses might not, between guilt and anger and blame, all normal, but they might not feel normal at the time. So there are people who we never say understand, because you can't understand how someone else truly feels, but who can relate.
That's so true. You never really know. And that goes with Cheslie, someone who is so bold and witty and just charming and had all of these wonderful gifts. Someone like her, to see her, take her life, to know that she was really, really deeply struggling. It's just, like I mentioned before, devastating. And it shows you that it could really happen to anybody. So for those out there who might be struggling, if you could give just maybe some advice about who to reach out to, how to reach out.
the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is always here. MHAGC specifically answers for the state of South Carolina. We're here 24/7, 365. We never close, not during COVID, holidays, nothing. So if all else fails and friends and family aren't available, there is always someone here to pick up the phone and talk with you. Between that, therapists in your area, your own support system, anyone is better than just suffering in silence.
It's a hard question to ask because you don't know what that answer is going to be. So I do think that's an important thing, to just be able to have that courage and to ask, how can I help you? Are you thinking of harming yourself?
We know that directly asking is the only way to guarantee that you get the answer to the question you're asking. And you have to be open and supportive of the answer. And that is the way to open the dialogue and decrease the stigma and let the people around you know that you are the safe space, that you can have this conversation.